it will be a soft opening because I think it's around 3 o'clock. Close enough. You know, this isn't a digital clock. Neither is the clock in my head. So I'll just I'll wait here, looking outside, figuring out my stuff. I see somebody. Oh, people are signing on. Yay! Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Nice to see people showing up. Welcome, welcome. Smiles, everyone, smiles. It's time for Retro Roadmap Facebook Live. And so check me out. Hey, everybody. Maud Betty here. And so, hey, Debbie. Hey, Cliffy. Hey, everybody. So here's the funny thing. Nice, Craig. It looked like you had such a fun time at Lucy the Elephant. Oh my gosh, I was so excited to see your pictures. Oh, hey, Boulder, Colorado. Okay, so you're going to have to fill me in because we're doing Colorado today. And boy, are there so many places I'm so excited to share. And boy, howdy, as that little can of goodness would say, how many places I just won't even have time to get to. So, welcome everybody. For those of you who were on last week, which many of you were, so thank you so much. You may notice something slightly different. Pardon me, it's kind of windy today, so things are windy, but it was so nice out. So last week I did Alaska, right? And I was all like, it's cold, Alaska, and today will be the last day that I'm out because it's October, and today's October 15th, so we're halfway through October. Nice to see everybody. Jeff Cooper, good to see you. So yeah, so last week I was pretending it was cold and it was kind of chilly, and today ends up being totally beautiful. So while last week I said, oh, I'm going to start doing the Retro Roadmap Facebook Lives inside the Hacienda. First of all, we had a little bit of unexpected recording going on, music-wise, Retro Road Husband and stuff, so that was kind of fun. But that was in the background. And then it ends up being such a nice day out today that seriously, as soon as I get off screen or whatever, I'm going to put my sneaks on and we're going to go for a walk because it is so nice out. Oh, Brian, and you just came back from Colorado, so this is so cool. So I look forward to sharing with all of you just a smidge, frankly, of the many places that I researched and got all excited to go to in the state of Colorado. So see all these little pins on my map? And yeah, there's no way in an hour that I can tell you all about these places. So I had to pick and choose. So what I will ask you is this, and I do this every episode, is if you have places you want people to know about in the place that I'm talking about, in the state I'm talking about, which today is Colorado, put them in the comments. You know, I love it, actually. It's not like you're chatting like in class and I'm like, shush, listen to me. I love seeing the interaction with people in the comment section because that's one of the reasons I do this. For those of you who have never tuned in or people who just like to hear me say this again, I started doing these Facebook Lives in the middle of March. So this is now 7 months in, no lie. This is my 41st. My 41st. I don't even know if that's a number. My 41st. Yeah, that's the one. This is my 41st episode of showing up weekly at Facebook, on Facebook Live, because I wanted to make sure that there was a way that people who might be on lockdown and can't get out a lot and socialize, if there was a way to kind of connect people. And I'm kind of like a wicked connector. I'm like a hub. And so it's like I'm bringing everybody together. But then please start looking at the names of the people in the comments. If you see some that you recognize, feel free to chat. And as I mentioned, if there are places about Colorado that you like, I may mention them, but I may not because I only have an hour today or any day. And when I started to put together my notes, there were so many places that I had turned I talk about kind of in life and on maps. Like, you know how on Google Maps or maps you've got like a pin in your map. Like there's a pin, the You Are Here pin. And it's kind of like a little teardrop, upside down teardrop shape. Kind of like, you know, whatever. Sometimes there are places that when I put a pin on my map, I get so excited that I turn that pin almost like into an exclamation point, like, oh yeah, no, this place I have to make sure to tell people about. And it ends up actually on this map, on my Google map. This is me officially, like, you know, printing them out. They turned into a little like zigzag, kind of like David Bowie, like, you know, look at me, I'm doing some sort of, I'm voguing, actually, people. Like a zigzag, like a Ziggy Stardust, Thunderbolt, or what, lightning thing. Yeah, that was it. So anyhow, we're talking about, and this is to just give context, right? So we are over here in Colorado, okay? We started over here in Maine. All of these states, there's a video for, right? And now we've got Colorado, and I think, seriously, there are only like 9 more episodes of this show left, because I've only got a smidge more of these states. That will take us to New Year's Eve day, December 31st. And then 2021. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't even know. I'll make something up. But in the meantime, retro roadmap worthy places in the state of Colorado, take 1. And I'm hitting the ground running because there's a few places that I actually kind of front loaded because I didn't want to inadvertently miss. First place that has been probably the #1 pin on my retro roadmap map of Colorado that I've wanted to check out forever. I've never been to Colorado, so all of these are the places I'm excited to get to. Lakeside Amusement Park in Denver. So Lakeside Amusement Park, totally adorable looking place, people. One of those like old-fashioned, like here they used to call them a trolley park, where like the trolleys on the weekends had no place to run, so they would make parks at the end of the trolley line, and people could go there. Lakeside is family owned and operated. Love that. Opened in 1908. Love that. Old time. What's that thing that Charles Phoenix, homespun and family run? Sorry, Charles, I'll send you a nickel. It's adjacent to Lake Rhoda, and it is in Denver, kind of, you know, in the Denver area. The neat thing I love about this place is that they've kept so much of their kind of old cool signage. If you look online, you will see these great old-fashioned neon signs with great fonts and stuff. They have, of course, they've got rides. They've got, you know, a carousel and a shoot the chutes and, you know, all sorts of interesting old architecture and little scooter boats, little scooter pie, Joey, if you know what I mean. And it just looks like such a fun place to go. That's Lakeside Amusement Park in Denver. They also mentioned, I saw online that I didn't know about this, there are many examples of architectural salvage there too, where somebody has salvaged a piece of architecture and used it for good as opposed to putting it in the dump. So I love that too. They say that there is a marble and mirror back bar that was saved from Denver's Union Station, and one of the picnic pavilions is created from a retired center column of a ride. So all sorts of cool things. Lakeside Amusement Park in Denver. I'm going to send you that one too. The other place is actually in Fort Collins. Fort Collins, Colorado. Totally a hotbed of interestingness. And I am telling you about Fort Collins because there's a vintage clothing store that I've never been to, but I'm totally in smit with. It's called Wear It Again Sam's. And I follow, Wear It Again Sam's. It's windy. I told you it's windy today. I follow Wear It Again Sam's on the Instagrams, and oh my gosh, if she does not have just the most adorable clothing, so cool. I think somebody connected us. I want to say it was a friend of a friend who said, oh, you should get in touch with her, and that's how all these things go. So if you're ever in Fort Collins, that is also where the record label that Retro Road Husband and Starbelly started on way back when I first met them. So I have kind of a fondness for Fort Collins. Now, normally, I would try to show you, like, that's, like, right there on the map. But see how I've got pins all over the place? Pins all over the world. We're going to talk about place around here. We're going to play, and I'm just going to start running. So, as I say, don't follow me. I'm lost, too. But just, you know, put on your seatbelt. Let's go for a wacky ride. And, oh, yes, speaking of wacky, I know I usually talk about like the foods that states are famous for, right? And I will do that. And I was going to end the show with it, but this was one of those things where I was like, it's kind of a weird food, people, okay? So there's this weird food that I didn't want you to be literally, I didn't want it to be the last thing I told you about, because then it would almost like leave a weird taste in your mouth. You know, it's the last thing you ate and you're kind of like, ugh. I just realized, actually, who was it? Craig Nye, you said that when I make that sound, I sound like Lucille Ball, and I probably totally got it from her. Ugh. Or actually, you know who I think of? I think of Snoopy. Ugh. You know, but I digress. Let me tell you about a gross food that Colorado is famous for. In any case, that food is Rocky Mountain oysters. Oysters. They're not really oysters. How does a genteel woman of my ilk talk about these? Well, they're not oysters. They are part of a male bull that and then they take it and they slice it and they fry it, and oh my God, yeah, Rocky Mountain oysters are bull balls. It's true. And here's the weird thing is, I bet you anything when I go to Colorado, I'm going to eat them and I'll be like, ugh. And maybe they'll be good because they're fried and I love fried stuff. So that's the whole, yeah. Prairie oysters, exactly. Euphemisms, people. It's all euphemisms. Yeah. Oh, that's good to know that you haven't had them. So maybe, I don't know. I kind of feel obligated, kind of like when we were at, where was that place? We were at the, it's a snack bar at the Jersey Shore, and they have like gelatin, like tomato aspic, kind of one of those like adventure foods. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, there's that. Moving right along, other better news. Let's talk about some theaters, shall we? Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the Oriental Theater that's also in Denver. But what we're doing is I started in Denver, and then I realized, oh my God, I could spend my life here. And so then I had to branch out all different places. But there's a bunch of Denver places, and one of them is the Oriental Theater. It was opened in 1927, started as movies and vaudeville, and now it is live. And one of the reasons I am mentioning this to you is I thought this was hysterical. So if any of you who are into rockabilly music, if you've been to any of these surf festivals, you know the name Deke Dickerson. He is a kick-ass guitar player who, pardon me, it's windy. Woo, I don't know if you can tell it's windy. Sorry. Whew. Oh, hope I don't get blown over. So this was a thing that cracked me up. Deke Dickerson, we've seen him live. He's an awesome guy. When I looked at the Google map, like live Google, what do they call it, Street View of the Oriental to see what the marquee looked like, his name was on the marquee. It's emblazoned there for at least the temporary history of Google Maps. So that's the Oriental Theater in Denver. Is a great place to go see live shows like Deke Dickerson, right? Another really cool looking theater in Denver is the Mayan Theater. Not in Mayan. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. Opened in 1930. It's now run by the Landmark Theater Company, and it is one of the country's last three remaining theaters designed in the Art Deco Mayan revival style, which of course begs the question, what are the other two? And guess what? I forgot to look it up. But this is the one that is in Denver. Total Landmark, Art Deco, Mayan, you know, that whole kind of like nice clean lines and exotic locales and stuff like that. Who does not love that? Oh, I did not realize Deke had the COVID. Oh, damn. Well, I'm glad he's recovering. Thank you, Susan. I did not know that. So send him, Maud Betty says, get well, Deke. We'll see you soon. Yes, the Landmark Mayan Theater in Denver. There's also the Paramount Theater in Denver, another old school, beautiful, opulent place that has gone from showing movies and things like that to now doing live events. And I just love places like that. So like if I travel to an area, one of the first things I will do is look to see if there's an interesting show at a place like that, so that I don't just have to just only look on the outside. I will be able to maybe go in and kind of roam around on the inside. So those are a couple of places in Denver. Speaking of interesting places in Denver too, this is one that so reminded me of a number of places on the South Shore of Massachusetts. And how fun is this to think that there are places out in Colorado, right? So we're here, for those of you who are bad at the maps like I am, so we're out here in Colorado, right? and reminds me of a place down here because it is a place called Little Man Ice Cream. Shut up, little man. Little Man Ice Cream. Now it's not that old. It's not old business-wise, but its idea of its building is totally old because it is in a building shaped like a milk can. You know, like one of those milk cans that you see like, you know, on somebody's porch nowadays, things like that. But back in the day, milk used to be served in the cans. So this is a giant milk can. Or if you watch that old show like Banana Stand, and there's a couple of places in Massachusetts where you can get ice cream in a milk can shaped place. And in Denver, Little Man Ice Cream is the place you'd want to go to. In Denver, there's also another neat place for ice cream called Bonnie Bray. Ooh, Bonnie Bray. Not Johnny Ray, Bonnie Bray Ice Cream. That is also a fairly new place. I want to say 1986. So to me, that's kind of new. For other people, they're like, that's older than when I was born. Whippersnappers. But the neat thing about that is that it is in a building that used to be a Dolly Madison ice cream stand. So what they did was they lovingly kind of restored the signs to reflect the new name, but they kept the neon signs, they kept kind of that funky vintage decor, and they have, from all accounts, delicious ice cream. Now, it's hard to make bad ice cream, but delicious ice cream is awesome. That is also, I always try to put this in here because not everybody has a sweet tooth like Maud B. Me, Maud B. If you don't have a sweet tooth and you don't want ice cream, they are within walking distance of a place called the Campus Lounge. That used to be kind of an old school watering hole, as they'd say, or like probably a dive bar-ish type of thing. Somebody has recently seen the value in it, kind of restored it, zhuzhed it up a little bit in kind of that dad bar type thing. So you think, well, you know, fake wood paneling, probably serves Coors beer because Coors is like a beer from Colorado. And what else do they have there? And they have like comfort food and classic cocktails. Some of my favorite things. If Coors and classic cocktails aren't necessarily your thing, maybe you want a bit of a tiki drink, this is another thing that I always love to look for when I am traveling, is a tiki bar. Now, not all of them are vintage. There are very few iconic vintage tiki bars left in the U.S., but there is one in Denver called Adrift. I'm adrift. Set adrift on a memory's bliss. Who's that? Baby, you send me. Anyhow, that one about Christina Applegate. Remember PM Dawn? Oh my gosh, old person brain. In any case, Adrift in Denver is new, but they are a tropical themed tiki bar offering rum-centric, because that's the tiki way, island drinks, and Polynesian inspired bites. And not bites like bites like little tidbits. Love that. So here are a couple of other places. Let's say you want to get more than just a little Polynesian bite. You want to actually get a meal. A couple of places that I was astounded and interested to find out was there are two places I want to mention kind of concurrently. One is called Sam's Number 3, and the other one is called Tom's Diner. Thank you, Brian Farr. I'm sure, yeah, that was, at least I remembered it was PM Dawn. And that, because I was adrift. Now I'm drifting off my direction. I gotta zoom on back here and talk to you about Tom's Diner, not the Suzanne Vega, but you can think of that song when you think of it, and Sam's Number 3. The reason I mention these places is because I was so surprised to learn that both of these places originally started as a restaurant chain called White Spot. And that's not so, it's like, okay, whatever. The interesting thing is that the buildings were designed by Armett & Davis. Now, maybe most of you are like, yeah, and what does that mean? So Armett & Davis are big deals, you guys. Armett & Davis, and I apologize, there's another person's name currently in the architectural business about them. No, I apologize, whatever your last name is. I just put down Armett & Davis. They are famous for kind of that iconic googie style of California architecture, California coffee house architecture. Like, for example, Pans. When we get to California, which will be the last episode I do, California, Pans is the place I always hit when we fly into LA. That's always the first place we go to eat, or the last place, because it's so iconic. So Tom's Diner and Sam's Number 3 were both designed by those famous architects in California. still look iconic, old school, kind of funky 60s looking, go there. Now, I can't remember which one or maybe both of these, but there are on one of these, on this road that I'm going to tell you about. And I do this because this is me looking at the map, because it is this long kind of east-west road. It's actually avenue. It's not a small road. It's an avenue. Colfax Avenue. The longest continuous commercial street in the country. Isn't that interesting? And they've got a wicked lot, that's an official term, a wicked lot of cool old businesses and neon signs, things like that. Now, many of them have fallen into disrepair. They've been knocked down, unloved, which we hate. We hate the unloved. So when we do find some that are being loved and lit up again and very cool, those are the ones we want to celebrate. So kind of moving generally in a east to west direction. I want to tell you about a few of them. So one of them is Bastian's restaurant. So Bastian's has been around since 1937. I was surprised because when you look at the building, it is a building that reminded me of the Doo-Wop Museum in Wildwood, New Jersey. Some of you in the comments, I know you've been to this building, and it's so iconic because that used to be a restaurant too. Kind of a round restaurant building, and it's got like this wicked, I keep on saying wicked because I'm a lazy talker. It's got this very distinctive kind of zigzag roof that kind of goes around it. So Bastian's restaurant has been around since 1937, and it's a cool, really interesting building. And they are known for its thick-cut sugar-rubbed steaks. Now, I don't know if I've ever had a sugar-rubbed steak, but if it's in a cool building like that, I will go check that out. So that's Bastian's. Good to know, Linergy Love. Thank you about the West Colfax hip. I would totally be driving down there myself. A lot of my sign peeps, my sign loving friends, also do a lot of photography of some of those. And one of the signs that I knew immediately, because people had taken pictures of it, is the Bluebird Theater on Colfax as well. It was built around 1913 or 14. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, and it is a wicked awesome neon sign. Speaking of wicked awesome neon signs, this one has a great story, or these ones. So there are a couple of places on my map that are kind of right within like a block of each other on Colfax. The Lion's Lair, Pete's Satire Lounge, and Pete's Kitchen. All of them have really interesting exteriors. The Satire Lounge is currently closed because of COVID, but Pete's Kitchen is the one I want to talk about because Pete's Kitchen, they all have, as I said, iconic signs, but Pete's Kitchen has got this neon sign that has been around for forever, and it is neon, and it shows a neon guy flipping pancakes. And the reason I mention that is because there was quite a while where the sign was unlit, and then the sign was lit, and then the sign didn't move. And when I say move, it's like they do like one pancake, two pancake, three pancake. It's kind of animated sign. So all in a row, it looks like the pancakes are flipping. Luckily, and back in the day, kind of animated neon signs or ones with like the flashing lights, they were thought to be ugly. You know, like this isn't pretty. We don't like these. So towns used to say your town cannot have a moving sign. I find this very interesting now in the towns that now have these like digital boards which are moving and stuff, and I find quite irritating. But the neat thing is that Pete's Kitchen actually went and started to get they applied for a variance to say that this sign was historic, that it deserved to be lit and reanimated, and lo and behold, they were granted their variance, and they are able to have an animated neon sign. That's Pete's Kitchen on Colfax in Denver, Colorado. So we're still on Colfax. We're moving now in the center of Denver. And one place I wanted to point out to you, not kind of old-timey, you know, like retro road mappy, but kind of interesting. The Colorado State Capitol. It is 1 mile above sea level. That's 5,280 feet. I looked it up. And that's why they call it the Mile High City. And there's a step. You can walk up the steps of the Capitol, and there's a spot where it says you're now that high above sea level. I thought that was kind of interesting. So this is a place. Now we're on the other side of town, and here's a place. It's called a motel, but hell's a poppin', people. I do not recommend you stay here. Because when I went to go research it, read some stories. But I will say that the sign is interesting. And that sign I'm talking about is the Big Bunny. I almost mispronounced it. The Big Bunny Motel in Lakewood. And the reason I mention this is because it was opened in 1952, and it was known as the Bugs Bunny Motel all the way up until 1997. And then in 1997, Warner Brothers was like, hey, yeah, you can't call that the Bugs Bunny Motel. So they changed it to the Big Bunny Motel. It's got an interesting sign, and you can probably see where they just kind of erased the U and made an I. So if you're a sign person, that's one to hit. Now this is a great combo to kind of end our travels on Colfax, because this is a double, a triple whammy, okay? Joker, and a triple, my friends, because I'm talking about Davey's Chuck Wagon. So Davey's Chuck Wagon is not only a diner, it is an actual legitimate East Coast diner, not one of these shiny new ones that I'm telling you about when they don't have anything else. It is a Mountain View diner, Mountain View from Signac, New Jersey. I always pronounce that wrong. Built in 1957. It is Mountain View number 516 for those of you who are keeping score, and I know some of you do. A Mountain View, authentic original Mountain View diner from 1957. Lakewood, Colorado, Davey's Chuck Wagon Diner. Not only is it a vintage diner, that's number one. Number two, they've got this crazy big tall sign of a cowboy, 20 feet high, 20 feet high. I'm telling you, it doesn't have a name. Maybe it's got his name, probably like Cowboy Davey. But they say he might have been inspired by Vegas Vic. I hope you can hear me. My neighbor is, I don't know, it sounds like they're doing road work or something, so I'll just talk louder. Vegas Vic, so 20-foot tall cowboy sign. It's been renovated in 1918. And as if that wasn't enough to grab your attention, number three is there's a fiberglass horse on the roof. The fiberglass horse has been there since 1962. Okay, so you've got the diner, you've got the giant cowboy sign, you've got the fiberglass horse, you've got great food inside. If I can't tell you, if that does not get you to go to this place, I don't know what will. So that is Davey's Chuck Wagon Diner, Lakewood, Colorado. Now, speaking of Lakewood, this was an interesting thing too, because in my research, I found a number of interesting vintage buildings that, lo and behold, weren't on their original locations. But the fun thing is that they weren't knocked down. They were actually just moved to a place called the Heritage Lakewood Belmar Park, formerly the Lakewood Heritage Center. And the Lakewood Heritage Center has indoor and outdoor exhibits and tours dedicated to the history, culture, and natural wonders of Lakewood. Now, natural wonders, I'm telling you right away, people, Colorado has a wicked lot of natural wonders. You know, they've got like mountains and sand dunes and all sorts of naturey stuff. I do not spend a lot of time telling you about that because Retro Roadmap is typically about the buildings and the places that are from like the early 20th century. But do not dismiss the nature. But I will mainly concentrate on places like the Heritage Park, because what they did was they would gather up these little buildings that might have been knocked down, and they moved them there so you actually can go visit them. They've got this like cute little Art Deco building that used to be like a beauty parlor, doing that, like the hairdo, little beauty parlor. They have an old Valentine diner, a little tiny Valentine diner that looks wicked cute. They've got a gift shop. They've got a gift shop full of stuff from the 20th century. And I love that stuff. So I would go there. That's a Heritage Lakewood Belmar Park in Lakewood. So check that out if you like little old buildings who've been saved. And who doesn't want to play real life Monopoly and save little buildings? Oh my gosh, people, you know what? We are almost halfway through Colorado, and I haven't even gotten out of Denver. Wait, Get Out of Denver. I think that's a song by Bob Seger. Don't worry, Retro Road Husband, I won't make you have to sing it. I think I know that. Oh, anyhow. I am just a wealth of random information. I'm telling you. Okay, so now we're finally out of Denver, and we got to get to the entire rest of the state in a half an hour. I will do my best. So these are my highlights. If you know places, pop them in there. We're going to talk about the Deaton Sculpture House. Now, this is a place you cannot go into. I rarely mention places that you can just go look at, but this was so interesting to me because did anybody ever see the Woody Allen movie Sleeper? I remember seeing that when I was a little kid and being like, oh my God, I love that house. It looks so crazy and futuristic. I mean, it totally looks like the 60s, 70s version of the future and like, you know, futuristic. But that house that they filmed that movie in is actually in Golden, Colorado. It was designed in 1963. Sleeper was 1973. And the crazy thing is nobody has ever lived in that house. There's a crazy history behind it, but it's up on a on a view of the mountain, so I think you can drive by and see it. But I just had to mention that Golden, Colorado also has a crazy arch in the downtown that says "Welcome to Golden, Colorado," like in case you're lost and you don't know where you are. So that's a thing. Morrison, Colorado, Red Rocks. So here's the funny thing: Red Rocks. If you're from like the 80s, like I am. You too. Remember, this is Red Rocks, and you know, Unforgettable Fire, Under a Blood Red Sky, was filmed there, live at Red Rocks. Live at Red Rocks, remember that, Under a Blood Red Sky?
This is not a rebel song. This is Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
There we go. All right, now go to the grocery store. That was a Retro Road Husband. I can always rely on him for a rock and roll quote. So Red Rocks is actually a famous amphitheater built into the rock structure. Oh yeah, he's starting up the car. That's our car. I'm here at the driveway. We're totally a class act here. So Red Rocks was actually built in 1941. So it's been around for a real long time. There's a whole history of it. I, of course, remembered U2. This is not a rebel song. This is Sunday, Bloody Sunday. And the Beatles actually performed there in 1964. How exciting is that? The other interesting thing about if you go to Red Rocks, so Jeff Cooper, I see there's a Moody Blues thing. There's so much history in that one place that I couldn't even begin to begin about it. I couldn't even begin the begin, as Cole Porter would say. At Red Rocks, though, here's an interesting thing too. There is also a Colorado Music Hall of Fame. Diana saw the Beatles at Red Rocks. Oh, that's so neat. So Susan, here, this is me like kind of doing an aside. So I started a podcast with a friend. I don't do it. I let her run with it, called I Saw the Beatles. So Susan, tell your friend to get in touch with my friend Jennifer. I'll send you the info because she's collecting stories of people who actually went and saw the Beatles. So thank you for mentioning that. Grateful Dead. I'm sure they had a ton of things. So see what I mean? There's such history there, depending upon what music you like. And I didn't even know this too. So there is the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. Check out some of these musicians who were from Colorado. Obviously, John Denver. I'll speak about him in a moment. But Judy Collins. And then there was Judy Collins. I'm kind of going alphabetically. This kind of cracked me up because Judy Collins and Glenn Miller, two interesting people. But then there was this kind of what do you call it? Oh, like yacht rock. Listen to me, yacht rock. Do I not come from Boston when I say things like that? A yacht rock, like I don't know, era there, because these bands also came from Colorado. Firefall, Dan Fogelberg, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and Poco also are from Colorado. So Colorado may have been one of the epicenters of yacht rock. So there's that, the Red Rocks. So John Denver, did you know? I didn't know this. So John Denver's real last name was not John Denver. I mentioned this to Retro Road Husband because he grew up listening to a John Denver album with his parents. And John Denver's real last name was, I almost said Dusseldorf. John Denver's real last name was Deutschendorf. John Deutschendorf became John Denver because he loved Aspen, Colorado so much he renamed his name. No, he would have been called he would have been called John Aspen. Oh, the things you read on the internet. Fake news. Here's a funny thing, maybe not fake at all. Do you believe in UFOs? They could be there. You never know. I'm not going to rule out the possibility. But in Center, Colorado, if you want to get that much close to outer space and go view, and maybe you can see some UFOs landing. In Center, Colorado, there's a place called the Ufo Watchtower. All along the Ufo Watchtower, it could be a song. It is an observation platform and campground with a 360-degree view of the San Luis Valley. And it was created in 2000 to capitalize on the existing use of the property by UFO observers. Because there's no, what do you call that, light pollution? Rock and roll ain't light pollution. There is no light pollution. So you can go out, and I bet it's even beautiful, even if you do not see, UFOs. It could be a really cool place to go and just see the stars. Could be beautiful. So that is the UFO Watchtower in Center, Colorado. I have a feeling when Retro Road Husband and I do go to Colorado, we will go there because he's got, but it kind of runs in his family, this like UFO fascination. Here's another thing that I thought was so cool. So in Vista, Colorado is the site of one of only 9 drive-in movie theaters in the entire state of Colorado. Now, if you look at how big this state is compared to so many other states, the fact that it only has 9 drive-ins is kind of mind-boggling. I will tell you about the one that I found the most interesting. It is called the Star Drive-In, or the Best Western Movie Manor. Now, I say Best Western because yes, not only is it a drive-in movie theater, but if you stay at the Best Western on the grounds, you can actually open up the curtains to your room and you can watch the drive-in movie theater from your room. That is in Vista, Colorado. The Star opened up in 1955. They've now got 2 screens, and as I said, Best Western Motel. So how fun is that? Maybe you're kind of sick of being in your car if you're on a road trip and you want to go into your hotel, but you still want to go to the movies. Boom, right there. So that's in Vista. Speaking of cars too. Okay, I think I'm doing all right on time here, so I can stop racing myself. Oh, I got quite a few left. I do. Trinidad, Colorado. Who knew there was a place called Trinidad? I don't know. Usually, in Trinidad, rum and Coca-Cola. That's the song that's going through my head now too. I am like a musical, like I'm telling you, my family's favorite sport is Name That Tune. So because I'm saying Trinidad, I've got rum and Coca-Cola going through my head. And if you know that song, maybe it's in there too. I mentioned Colorado's Trinidad because I want to talk about the Art Cartopia Museum. So this is when I will truly reveal my Bostonian upbringing, because I cannot say the words art car without my brain calling it Atka. This is the Atka Museum. And Atkas, they've got art on them. You know what I mean? Like they like paste, they got a bunch of, army men and weebles and stuff, and they got them on there, or they transform your car into art. And that is in Trinidad. It's a hub of community arts. See, I can't even talk anymore. It's a hub of community arts around the car. And they also, this is not my talking, this is how they claim that this is how they identify themselves. It's the wacky world of art car shenanigans, or art car shenanigans. So that's Art Car Museum in Trinidad. One place I thought it was important, and I can actually point this one out in the map because it's right here, and I may be mentioning it in the next many states that I do in here, because Colorado is one of 4 states that meets at a total like right angle-y type thing, right? So there's the Four Corners Monument, and I guess technically you could go there in one and say you've been to all the states, kind of like Twister-wise, but Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, what did I miss? And Utah. All of them meet in that little square thingy. So that would be a good place to go. And you know what you could do too? Like if that's totally out of the way in one state, figure out what is close by to that one and kind of check it off all your state lists. Then you don't have to go there every time you're in another one of those states. Am I right? Ooh, so this was creepy. Another kind of creepy, weird thing that I totally fell down the rabbit hole. I found out about this guy called Alfred Packer. because creepily enough, there is a snack bar at like the University of Colorado, I think. I'm not sure what school it is. There's a snack bar named after him, and I say it's creepy because he was a cannibal. He ate people. Crazy story behind this guy. Quite a character, a little bit of a liar, a little bit of a thief, a little bit of a cannibal. But Alfred Packer there's an Alfred Packer massacre site in Lake City where they found a bunch of people he ate. And it's kind of funny because then it's like one of those things where you find the thing that the place is interesting for, and the next thing you know, there's like cannibal cabins, and there's the cannibal place to get your food, and there's all this stuff. But yeah, very interesting, kind of crazy story behind there. So if that's the type of thing you like to I want to go stay in a haunted motel or a haunted hotel, look up Alfred, and he spelled his name Alfred, like E-R-D, not R-E-D. Not Alfred, like the butler on Batman. Alfred, like they switched around the names. So that's in Lake City. In slightly more pleasant news, let's talk about another glorious theater, shall we? The Egyptian Theater in Delta. So we had a Mayan Theater up in Denver, and now we've got the Egyptian Theater in Delta. Crazy how like the Egyptian look and the Mayan look, very angular, very architectural, very Art Deco, was very heavily influenced in the discovery of both King Tut's tomb and some of the Mayan ruins back in the early 20th century. That's why Art Deco kind of looks the way it does. But the Egyptian Theater was built in 1928, and it is also designed by the same guy who designed the Mayan Theater. So if you're ever in Delta, Colorado, please check that out. Now, this is a place that I know there are a couple of locations similar to this in many other states, and I was excited to learn about this because, again, I think Craig Nye, if I'm not mistaken, you like these places. There's a North Pole. So in North Pole in Colorado, Santa's Workshop opened in 1956 in Cascade, Colorado. It is just west of Colorado Springs, and it's the entrance to the Pikes Peak Highway. So they get Santa's house, they get the pole, the pole, they've got activities, they got a gift shop. I bet you can buy like a snow cone or something. But that's North Pole, Colorado, Santa's Workshop, okay? Take note. And that could be another thing too, where you decide, you know what? As soon as this COVID's over and it's safe to travel everywhere and I'm not gonna get sick and nobody else is gonna get sick, I'm gonna go to all the North Poles. That could be an idea of getting yourself on the road and exploring. Here's another one that totally sent me down memory lane. Boulder, Colorado, right? Boulder, Colorado, I kind of forgot until I remembered this, that Mork and Mindy. Remember that show, you guys? Mork and Mindy? Thursdays at 8 o'clock? It was based in Boulder. I had kind of forgotten that because I saw it as a kid. I didn't even know where Boulder, Colorado was. But you can still see the house. They didn't film it in the house, but you can see the house that was in the opening credits to Mork and Mindy. And the crazy thing is, I kind of went on this little retro, road trip of my own with some of my friends, like on Facebook. Like, remember this show and all that? And we started talking about, Nanu Nanu and the fact that Mindy was supposed to be a college student, whereas to me she looked like 40. But anyhow, you can still go see that. It's in Boulder, Colorado, and that could be another thing. Like, you could go to Minneapolis and you could find the house that they used in the opening credits of Mary Tyler Moore. Like, you could go track down all the Brady Bunch house. See, look at this. I'm riffing, people, but this is how you start. You're like, ooh, that's like a thing I could do. I could go see, like, what was that, Too Close for Comfort or something, where they had a house on the outside. You could go to visit all the houses that were on TV. I just say, that's a thing. Burlington, Colorado. They've got a really neat historic carousel, and one of the reasons I'm sharing this one too, it's another one that's from the East Coast, much like that diner I was talking about. Now think about it, okay? Here we are. We were talking about a can that you can go get your ice cream at, Colorado. Then we talked about a diner that was trucked all the way from New Jersey out to Colorado, right? And then over here in Pennsylvania, where I am, out here, Pennsylvania Toboggan Company, not only made toboggans, but they also made some really wonderful carousels. And there's a carousel from the Philadelphia Toboggan Company all the way out here in Colorado. It is the Kit Carson County Carousel in Burlington. It is PTC, as those of us in the biz call it, Philadelphia Toboggan Company. PTC, what number? Oh, I thought it had the number. Oh, 6th. They didn't put the number. 6th. This is PTC number 6. The one I grew up riding when I was a kid at Paragon Park, I believe it's PTC 85. And again, I'm such a dork that I'm just like, oh my God, I want to find all the PTCs. It is the only antique carousel in America, still having original paint on both the scenery panels and on the animals, and the only surviving menagerie carousel made by Philadelphia Toboggan Company. Now, for those of you who want to get into carousels, a menagerie means that they don't just have horses. It means they've got all sorts of other things, you know, they got all sorts of animals. So there's that. All right. Still yet more places to go to in Colorado. My gosh, when Retro Road and husband and I take our cross-country trip, and we will, we're going to have to spend a wicked lot of time in Colorado. One of the places we might try to visit too is Leadville, Colorado. And the reason we'd go there is because it is the highest elevation city in the entire United States. 10,152 feet. Jeff Cooper, I'm pretending to do the math in my head, but I really have it written down here. That is 3,094 meters. Yes. And yes, Susan, you're right about the toboggans. It was roller coasters. I'd like to think maybe they made one. Oh, maybe not. But that's why I love having experts, because they will correct me when I'm inadvertently giving misinformation. But the highest city in the world, in America, Leadville, Colorado. You have to drive up a windy road to get there. That could be a thing. Then you can find the lowest place in the country. There's that. How about the largest sticker ball? You know, you hear about balls of twine. You hear about balls of, what's that stuff? The prickly stuff. Barbed wire. You know, the giant ball of rubber bands. This is the largest sticker ball in the world. Guinness said so it must be true. It's in Longmont. It actually has a name. His name is Saul. And I say this, it's funny. He's already a character. He's a he. He only was invented like in 2006, and I seriously want to go there just so I can slap on some retro road map stickers, take some pictures, and have my stickers be part of the history of this newly invented goofy thing to go visit. I am missing some comments. I apologize if I cannot comment on everybody's, but I'm looking on my map here. I'm looking on my phone, and they literally give me like 2 lines. So that was Saul, the sticker ball. How about some history, but fake history? I found out Manitou cliff dwelling. So Manitou Springs in Colorado. Got a bunch of interesting places, but let's start with the stuff that's most historic, which is the cliff dwellings. They are kind of a recreation of how the Pueblo Indians used to live back in the day, the Anasazi Museum was established there. They were built in 1904, and it gives you an idea of how the indigenous people, before we all showed up, how the indigenous people actually lived there. I think that is fascinating because we all, unless we are 100% American Indian, all of us came from somewhere else. We didn't come from here. Maybe our families have been here for a long time. Maybe they just arrived, but all of us in the U.S., we have come from someplace else. So nobody can claim to be like from back in the day unless you seriously are indigenous person, all right? So keep that in mind and embrace the differences. You know what I mean? So these are faux cliff dwellings, and you can climb around in them. I just think it's interesting because we should learn about that part of our history because we don't learn a lot about that in the history. On a lighter note, as far as Manitou Springs, well, actually, I'm going to flip this one because it was kind of like there's a history that they kind of turned into something wacky. And then there's a wacky thing they do there that I don't even think it has a history. They just decided to be extra wacky. So I say this like, okay, you know how most of you know that the town that I live in is the town that they built, they built the old theater. There's an old theater in town, and it is famous because they filmed the movie The Blob here. you know, Beware of the Blob, 1958, and every year for the past 20 plus years, they have a Blob Fest where they decided once 20 years ago, like, hey, let's celebrate this movie and we're going to do something to highlight this unusual yet interesting part of our history. Well, the same thing happened in Manitou Springs, and they have this thing called the Coffin Races. Now, I can't even begin to, I was trying to like give you like a haiku version of why they have coffin races there. It has to do with a woman who was buried in a coffin, and then the coffin got uncovered and they couldn't find out where to put it. And then the next thing you know, for more than 23 years, they've been creating fake coffins and racing them around one time a year in Manitou Springs. Read up on it, but it looks kind of like some fun. And who doesn't like goofy, unusual fun that they probably don't do that many other places. I know we're having a bed race here in town in a few weeks. That's kind of a thing. So that's Manitou Springs Coffin Races. The Emma Crawford, Google her. The Emma Crawford Coffin Races, okay? So that's like the history-inspired wacky thing that you can do there. But also, there's a fruit cake toss. So in January, probably when people are finally putting their Christmas stuff together and they were like, I got this fruit cake, what do I want to do with it? They have a fruit cake toss. And you go and kind of like I don't even know if you shot put it or whatever. Yes, Lynn, yes, I saw the Frozen Dead Guys Day. I saw that too. So I kind of love all these crazy things that go on. Like the fact that many people in Colorado have a morbid or twisted or unusual sense of humor. I love that. So thank you for telling everybody else about that too. But the fruitcake toss in Manitou Springs reminded me of the pumpkin chunkin' that they do on in Delaware. Sorry, got a text. And so it's kind of like that. They may shot put it. They may have one that you throw it yourself. They may have catapults. They may have anything. But I just thought that was wicked fun. Like I would totally go to a fruitcake toss. Also, if those are neither, maybe that's not your thing, there's a wicked cool old arcade in Manitou Springs. Old-fashioned arcade. It's got like pinball, all the old stuff and the modern things. And one last thing, I know I'm rambling on about Manitou Springs, but one more thing. Cog Railway. Cog Railway. Ever heard of a Cog Railway? There's two of them. Actually, there are three, but I only know of the other one. I can't remember what the third one was. But there's one in the White Mountains of New Hampshire that I know of, the Cog Railway, White Mountains. And there's another one, the Pikes Peak Cog Railway starts in Manitou Springs. Now, Retro Road Husband is back from the grocery store. I hope you bought me some snacks. You blinded me there, bub.
Oh, sorry.
What were you, Red Rocks? I kid. So, I was mentioning a lot of places in Manitou Springs, and then there was another place that I wanted to make sure to mention because Estes Park. Estes Park is in northern Colorado. It is like the base for the Rocky Mountain National Park. And it's got wildlife, and I'm saying like it's got wildlife. Like I don't disparage the wildlife. It's like that's a given. That's cool stuff. They are near the Roosevelt National Forest. They've got an aerial tramway. So if you like cog railways, maybe like aerial tramways where you go up on the tram. That looks wicked fun. But there were a bunch of places that were in downtown Estes Park that I was just like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like it's like one of those places. It's probably like an old-fashioned, for lack of a better term, like a kind of a tourist town. So there's the Loveland Heights cottages you could stay in. These cute little cottages you get a room at. Then you can go down to the Caramel Crisp and you can get some like caramel flavored popcorn. They've got a Meadow mini golf. They've got the Historic Park Theater and Cafe. And they've got the Taffy Shop. And that's just a few of the things that are in downtown Estes Park, Colorado. And I just thought that place looked so freaking adorable. Little vintage signs, little sweet things to eat, little walking around. That's what I love to do when I'm on vacation. So I thought maybe because you're a retro road mapper, you might like to do that too. So we are almost out of time here. But there's one, and I know, I'm saying there's only one course. There's a heck of a lot of places. If I were to do my book of Colorado, oh boy, it might be a couple of editions. But there are so many other places to examine and discover in Colorado. But one of the places that I thought was so interesting, I wanted to mention to you in Lyons, Colorado, there's a place called the Wee Casa. Not the Mi Casa. I used to work at Mi Casa or Su Casa or a Hacienda. I digress. The Wee Casa Tiny House Resort. So you know those tiny houses that people make? You know, you see them on TV and stuff, little tiny houses. You can actually rent one. You can stay at the Wee Casa Tiny House Resort, and you can rent one and you can stay in it. It's almost like trying it on for size. Like, ooh, does this feel cozy, or do I feel claustrophobic? Like, do I need any more space, or maybe this is all I need? You know. So that's in Lyons. They have all different ones you can choose from. So you can kind of, as I like to call it, I was writing something recently where I talked about Goldilocksing something, which is like, ooh, I don't know, do I want that one or that one or that one? And you can like pick, which one you like, you know? So that is the Wee Casa Tiny House Resort in Lyons. And that, my friends, brings us to the conclusion of episode 41 of Retro Roadmap Facebook Live from the Hacienda. I'm covering the U.S., I'm started over here. December 31st is when we get here, so we're almost done. Today was episode 41. Next week is going to be Wyoming. Wyoming, where are we? Right here. Wyoming. And then just a handful of these big states between now and the end of the year. And the reason I do this, Linergy, put the best music venue. Put that in the comments, because I didn't see that. So if you can put that down in there, that would be awesome. Oh yes, and totally I will totally take any tours, any advice, and I look forward to this, because the reason I do this is to encourage us all, my own self included, to not give up on the thought that, you know, we can go out at some point and safely go traveling and explore the world again. I am doing this to prepare all of us to hit the ground running, so that when things are safe and we won't get sick and we won't get other people sick, that we will be able to go traveling. And by doing this, you know, some places that may have gotten you excited to get there before long. Now, I just got this weird notification on my phone that my internet is unstable. So I'm thinking that is the universe telling me to sign off. Next week, unless it's wicked nice out like it is today, I will probably have a new background. The background of Retro Roadmap HQ, my office. Yes, Susan, I started with Lakeside because I wanted to make sure we didn't forget it. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for putting things in the comments, for showing up. Spread the word. Spread the word about Retro Roadmap. I've got, you know, Just Drive Your Life. I do Retro Roadmap. I'm just trying to stay connected to you so you can stay connected to other people, and we can all get through this stuff together, having fun. You know what? Decide where you want to go to and just drive your life. All right? I'll see you next week. Bye.